Good evening, everyone. I'm 10 Tampa Bay meteorologist Colleen Campbell, and I'm joined once again by the lovely Lee Southwick. Hey, Lee. She's over in Jacksonville.
Hello, thanks for having me, and I'm glad that we can break down the tropics together on this new 5 o'clock advisory.
Yeah. So for anybody that's new here to our streaming show, we've been doing this a few times throughout the day just as we're tracking Erin. Plus, we got another area of interest that we're watching closely, so we're going to kind of break that all down. And Jacksonville, you guys have a weather impact alert. We had one here for some heat, but we did expire that a little bit early. But you guys, of course, have some threats that you have to worry about when it comes to Erin. We'll get over that too. So let's go over the stats. Lee, you want to kick us off since I started off the last 2 shows yesterday?
Sure. All right. Let's talk about the 5 o'clock advisory. I think the biggest thing with this is that no changes really with the 5 o'clock. So it still has winds of 125 miles an hour. Still a major hurricane, category 3, but a major hurricane. And it's moving to the west-northwest at about 13 miles an hour. It is expected to strengthen again. So although right now we're talking about a Cat 3, a storm that was weaker than when Colleen and I were talking to you this time yesterday, it is expected to strengthen again back into a category 4 hurricane. And, you know, looking at this, Colleen, that has a pretty decent structure. I mean, that is still a very scary monster of a storm. Cat 3 is still a major hurricane.
Yeah, so within the last couple of hours, we went through this yesterday, right, where we have that eye wall replacement that keeps trying to take place. So basically when that occurs, I'm going to switch this over to the other satellite, and I believe radar is on here too. But when that occurs, we have our original eye wall that breaks down and a new eye begins to form. And during that process, kind of think of the hurricane basically as shedding itself and starting a new life. And when it comes back, it will come back stronger. It still remains keeping its structure for the most part. It will look a little bit haggard at times during that eye wall replacement cycle, and it weakens too. But afterwards, and Lee can attest to this too, we usually see the structure become a little bit better in form of a bigger wind field, right, Lee?
Right, yes. I don't know if you have the cone to pull up here, too, that we could kind of show how it is expected to strengthen as well. That's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center, so it will likely grow in size, grow in strength, and therefore we actually now have tropical storm warnings in effect, not only for the Turks and Caicos Islands, but also the southeastern Bahamas. That was issued earlier, too, not this advisory. That's not new to this advisory, but still it just shows that it is expected to still be a big storm. In fact, likely grow in size and grow in strength as it passes the southeastern Bahamas, which you can see there highlighted as a major category 4 hurricane, expected to strengthen back up to winds of 145 miles an hour. This is by tomorrow afternoon. The 2 o'clock advisory tomorrow, we could see those winds back up all the way to around 145. And from there, it will continue to move to the north, and it might drop back a bit. Still a major category 3 hurricane when it's way off of our coast here in the Jacksonville area, several hundred miles to the east, but a major category 3 hurricane, a big storm that's going to impact our beaches here along the First Coast.
Yeah, so I did want to talk about those warnings that have been updated, because last night for the 11 o'clock show, I was honestly surprised we didn't have any watches in place for the Bahamas, but then it looks like they quickly caught on and issued those because, you know, usually we see watches issued 48 hours out. That's kind of the sweet spot for the National Hurricane Center to start issuing those watches and warnings. But yes, right now, as Lee mentioned, the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, I actually should probably move this over a little bit, now under that tropical storm warning. That's that area that's highlighted in the blue. I'm just going to move this map up a little bit since that is basically the direction of the storm that we have. The storm will continue that curve up to the north, but yes, it looks like the Bahamas not populating yet, although I might have to zoom in. No, it's not. Which this happens. Sometimes that data takes a while. I know that happened yesterday, I believe, with some of the watches. Go ahead,
and
Lee.
you do have it right there, the far southeastern Bahamas. Like, I think the cluster of islands to the northwest of Turks and Caicos, I believe that
little
like
cluster.
That's part of the Bahamas. Yeah, so way down there. And you were talking about how you were surprised at 11 o'clock. I was too. We didn't have any sort of watches for the Bahamas. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a few watches out on some of those other islands.
Yeah.
Because, Colleen, have you noticed too that it's been moving west a bit more than the forecast cone? It's kind of it's not uncommon with these really big, strong storms to kind of take over their own environments and keep powering the direction they want to. But it was jogging to the west a little bit more. And so I think it wouldn't be surprising if we got some extra watches up for areas further to the west in the Bahamas. I am not talking about Florida. I'm talking about the Bahamas. And I do think it will continue to make that turn to the north. We've already seen it now moving to the west-northwest. It's already starting to move to the north. We just need it to continue to get up north now.
Yeah, Lee, I was looking we actually made a graphic the other day, and I'm sure you've seen it, where we showed the cone history put out by the National Hurricane Center. It's always something interesting to look at, how the cone just kind of changes just slightly. That's not a dramatic change. This is very typical for these systems to wobble a little bit here, wobble a little bit there. We've been saying that from the beginning. What's not going to happen is a sharp turn, and I hate seeing all the things online. I know back home, over by or where I'm originally from, there's all kinds of things going around on the internet. I mean, Lee, they're actually taking satellite infrared imagery and pasting it on top of the Jersey, Pennsylvania area and saying, look what's coming. And I'm like, that's not even a forecast. It's just some of the things I've seen, it's just crazy. But yes, let's talk about that wind field, because again, as the storm regathers itself and begins to intensify after it goes through that eye wall replacement cycle, which is happening right now, basically, that's where we will see that extended wind field. And this is important because, again, as Lee was just saying, we could see some of those tropical storm watches extended into other parts of the Bahamas. Right now, it's just that small southeastern part of the chain, the Bahama island chain, that's under that tropical storm warning. But we may see this extended because as we go out in time with the wind field, you do see those winds come a little bit closer to the Bahamas there. It's right there. And again, of course, the closer you get to the eye, that's where you're going to have the stronger winds. That's when you get into hurricane force winds. But actually, our morning meteorologist, Mikey P, put this graphic together, and I like it because it has the wind speeds for some of those select locations, as well as kind of depicts a better picture versus this graphic that we were showing you before. We showed you this yesterday. And this shows you the probability of experiencing tropical storm force winds. Still a great graphic because you can see the Bahamas, that whole chain of the islands, in that 10 to 20% chance of seeing those tropical storm force winds. But I don't know, Lee, let me know your thoughts. I prefer this graphic more because it just shows that wind field a little bit better.
It does. I like that we have the wind speeds on the graphic too to let people know, just even if it's just barely up to around tropical storm force winds, or if they're gusts, whatever they may be. That's a great one how it extends out. So it's just to let people know in the Bahamas, it's going to be breezy. It's going to be windy out there with that wind field expanding from the center of this massive hurricane. So yes, we will likely get some sort of tropical storm force winds, especially for the tropical storm warning area. That's what that means. But as you can see here, the rest of the Bahamas highlighted in that green, it's possible you could get some of those tropical storm force winds, at least gusts of tropical storm force strength. So 39, 40 mile per hour gusts, not out of the question. And I love this graphic because it does show how wide these wind speeds are reaching, really the width of this storm. We usually see it when it comes to satellite radar, but now with the winds, you can see how far out those gusty conditions will expand.
Yeah, and it also gives you a good timeline, too. One of our producers, our 11 o'clock, well, she's filling in for this weekend, but she has family out in Puerto Rico, and they left yesterday. Of course, this storm is moving north of Puerto Rico, and I said, wow, they got their flight out of there, which is great. But again, they were also on that edge where they were going to experience some areas, depending where you are in Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic, would probably see those tropical storm force winds. They said, it's the way they live their life down there would be like us here in Florida, where we have experience when it comes to tropical systems. Of course, we don't want to see them, but they just take that extra step, and they were like, hey, even though this doesn't seem to be too much of a threat and it could be way worse, we're getting out of here just so we're in the clear and we don't have to worry about it. So I was glad to hear that, but they said it was just like a regular, rainy day, just a little bit windier than it normally is. Okay, let's talk about surf heights, because this is a shorter show. We have another one coming up at 8, which is a little bit longer. But again, this really plays into your area, Lee, these wave heights. This is something you guys have really been talking about.
And actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull this up. I wrote down some wave heights for each day for parts of our area. I'm just going to list them off as you show it here, too. This is a great graphic that shows this potential wave heights. But tomorrow, for southeast Georgia, you could have wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. And northeast Florida, that's 3 to 5 feet. Then it's just going to get higher each day. So on Tuesday, southeast Georgia, your breakers are 3 to 6 feet. And northeast Florida, it's 6 to 8 feet. And then by Wednesday, we expect that to be the worst day. In southeast Georgia, you'll have breakers of 4 to 7 feet. And northeast Florida, we could see breakers of 9 to 10 feet. A 10-foot wave possible in the Jacksonville area, Jacksonville beaches. So big waves on the way. We expect it to grow each and every day, with Wednesday being the worst day, and Thursday still feeling those impacts, rip currents, big waves, powerful waves, maybe some minor coastal flooding, and the possibility of moderate beach erosion here too.
Yeah, I want to talk about the flooding too, because, at times it will probably appear as a beautiful day, but you have that flooding because you have that spring tide, neap tide, right? And I want to play out this animation because I want to show that most of the rain will be off the coast, and we could have some drier air wrapping in. So some folks may say, oh, it's a beautiful day, but you have the threat of flooding and those rip currents as well as those strong waves. So Lee, you want to break that down?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the drier air wrapping in. So again, a lot of people likely, if you're lucky, take off of work or maybe take the kids out to the beach afterwards, it's going to be drier, especially across southeast Georgia starting tomorrow, and then northeast Florida drier on Tuesday and Wednesday with the rain offshore. So lots of sunshine, but as you head to the beach, dangerous in the water. And you can start to see some flooding piling up. It's not flooding. So here we have a couple of neighborhoods that flood, like San Marco, which is due to that rainfall we've seen recently. That's the water collection we've seen. But San Marco also along the St. Johns River. So I'm talking to those of you along the St. Johns River, the Intracoastal, any of those inlets along northeast Florida and southeast Georgia. We could start to see some of that water pile up, especially in northeast Florida with the way the coastline goes. When you have that onshore flow and you have these powerful waves moving in and spring tides, so already astronomically higher tides, all of that combined could lead to a bit of flooding when the high tides arrive. And also in the afternoon and evening, those high tides especially, that's when we could see some water starting to pile up.
Yeah, so getting to the weather impact alert that they had placed in Jacksonville. Here in Tampa, we are not expecting any threats from Erin, thankfully. And I did want to end the show briefly talking about the which I think I have it down here, that little area of interest off the coast of Africa. But very quickly here, they do have a weather impact alert, which Lee was talking about this yesterday. This is for the Jacksonville area, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And again, just for those risks that Lee was just highlighting, rip currents, high surf, tidal flooding, and beach erosion. Even if it's not coming down the rain, these tides are not due to the rain. We just went over that, and they don't want you swimming in the ocean. Lee, this is your weather impact alert. I don't want to steal your thunder there, but...
No, you're not at all. And I like that you mentioned that other area, the Atlantic, that we also want to talk about. And just again, a friendly reminder to everyone that we have a longer stream at 8 p.m. where we will be breaking down that next system too that's out there in the Atlantic. But Colleen, take it away, wrap up the show for us.
Yeah, so the system, we have a tropical wave that's off the coast of Africa. This is where these little seedlings begin. This is where Erin began, a little bit further south than Erin's original stomping grounds, but it has a 30% chance of development within the next week. 0 shots in the next 48 hours. Yes, join us at 8 o'clock. We will go over the models for that system at 8. However, I'm going to warn you, this is about 2 weeks out. So when you're about 2 weeks out from a storm, the models are not going to be in agreement at all. But you probably will see things floating around on the internet that we want to debunk. So that's all the time we have for now. Lee, thank you. You're always lovely to speak with.